We're going to visit Aunt Violet today. You two," she pointed towards Joe and Sissy, "can stay here if you want. Scott and Sarah will come with us and we'll drop Johnny and Melody off at your other grandparents." Scott and Sarah weren't looking forward to the long car ride, nor the insane asylum, but they had no choice in the matter. Hello, you are listening to In My Words. The book I am reading from is titled The Monster We Call Dad by D.A. Riles. This book is not intended for young readers. After each reading session, I will show or discuss a various topic of interest. Leaving a comment will help my videos get noticed more and allow other people to view them. Also, purchasing one or all three of my books will be very helpful. My newest book is out, titled The Sensitives. You can find it at Amazon.com under The Sensitives by D.A. Riles. Thank you for your time and consideration. Chapter 47, Insane Asylum. Thomas and Jane planned a vacation for themselves. They were going to Mexico by car. Jane looked forward to this vacation, for it would be just her and her husband. Things were always much less tense when it was just the two of them. Thomas treated Jane much nicer when they were alone. Perhaps they never should have been parents to begin with. After planning their vacation, Tom called his parents and told them of their plans. "Sure, no problem," his ma replied to Thomas. "When are you thinking of?" she questioned. "February, so we will be gone over Sarah's birthday. You'll have to make her a cake." "You don't expect us to get her a present, do you?" she asked snidely. "Nope, she doesn't need one. Besides, we'll be back just a few days later." "Well, that's good," his ma said, and then added, "There's one more thing. We're going to visit Violet at the asylum while the kids are here, so you'll have to find someone else to take care of them on that day. Or the 4 older ones can come with, but the 2 little ones can't. They're too young." Taking a momentary breath, she added, "George will be working, so he can't watch the kids either." Hesitating for a moment, Thomas called Jane over to the phone. "Call your parents and see if they can watch Johnny and Melody," he instructed his wife. "I'm sure they can handle the 2 for just one day." Jane nodded, showing her agreement. A week later, the children were dropped off at their grandparents' home. A couple of days later, Grandma Schultz announced to the children, "We're going to visit Aunt Violet today. You two," she pointed towards Joe and Sissy, "can stay here if you want. Scott and Sarah will come with us and we'll drop Johnny and Melody off at your other grandparents." Scott and Sarah weren't looking forward to the long car ride, nor the insane asylum, but they had no choice in the matter. From the outside, the institution looked quite nice. White snow covered the ground and made the large building appear pristine. Yet upon entering, there was no mistake that this was not a hospital, nor a family-friendly place. Entering the building, Sarah could see the reception area. It looked nice enough, but she could smell the familiar odor of urine and excrement. In the background, she could hear people crying out, but as of yet was unable to see any of the residents. After Grandma checked everyone in, they began the long walk to Violet's room. Grandpa and Grandma walked side by side. Sarah and Scott walked behind, but stayed close together. Some residents were leaning against the wall. Others were lying on the floor in their own waste. Keeping her gaze in front of her, Sarah tried hard not to look into the rooms, until one patient tried to grab her. After that, she began scanning her head back and forth to make sure it didn't happen again. Scott, on the other hand, was being defiant. He didn't want to be here, and he didn't want to walk alongside his grandparents. He wanted to be left alone. Scott noticed many things that took place in that asylum. He saw a woman lying on her bed naked, touching herself. He looked away. He saw a man rubbing his head over and over until there was a bald spot. Again, he looked away. The images were disturbing, yet impossible to avoid. Why would someone do that? He wondered to himself. Although Sarah tried hard not to look around, it was difficult. There were just so many people everywhere. Both children saw people banging their heads on the walls until either they knocked themselves out or until they bled. None of the workers seemed to care what the residents were doing as long as they weren't giving the staff grief. If that happened, then they would round up several other attendants, sometimes up to 7 people, to restrain the patient. Eventually, that patient would be put in a straitjacket and left in the hall, or tied to a wheelchair, or even put in a padded cell, all the while being restrained, trying to stop their psychotic episode. Sometimes, even after the patients were calm and had been given Halcyon or another type of calming drug, they may still be left restrained where they were for days or more at a time. The staff really didn't care if the patients were well taken care of or not. They just wanted to get their paycheck. Oftentimes, patients were raped, beaten, or neglected just because it could be done. No one wanted the responsibility for caring for a non-person. Seeing all the terrible things before her, Sarah had many questions, but she knew her questions would never be answered, so she kept them to herself. Shortly before entering Violet's room, Sarah heard an overly thin, gray-haired woman screaming at the top of her lungs. "At the root of all evil lies money!" Over and over again the woman shouted as she stood precariously upon an empty wooden fruit box. Looking more closely at the gray-haired female, Sarah realized that the woman wasn't old. She was actually quite young for being in such an awful place. A sense of desperation seemed to be coming from the woman as her words echoed through the long, white hallways. A sudden mass of attendants came rushing at the small woman. Sarah watched as they viciously grabbed her off the crate and threw her onto the white tiled floor. Tears glistened over Sarah's eyes as she watched the scene before her. Just as Sarah was about to turn away from the terrible scene, she felt someone brush past her. A man in a white doctor's coat ran toward the ever-growing mass of people lying on top of the still preaching woman. "At the root of all evil lies—" The woman's words were cut short as the wind was knocked out of her. Briefly, Sarah's gaze caught the attention of the struggling female lying on the ground. Her ever-shrinking body was being snuffed out by the pile of people lying on top of her as she looked toward Sarah with imploring eyes. But there was nothing that the young child could do. Feeling a sudden yank on her arm startled Sarah as Grandma Schultz pulled her into Violet's room. A sudden sense of relief flooded through Sarah's body as she felt the safety of the protection of the room engulf her turmoiled thoughts about the now stifled woman lying beneath the attendants just outside the sanctity of the small room. The group of 4 had made it to a somewhat safe area, or so Sarah thought, until she turned around. "Grandma!" Sarah nearly screamed. Grandma gave Sarah a stern look. "Scott is gone," Sarah said more quietly. Please like, share, and subscribe. I look forward to having you join me again next time, where I will show another topic, and I will continue to read from the book titled The Monster We Call Dad by D.A. Riles, which you can purchase from Amazon.com. My newest book is out, titled The Sensitives. You can find it at Amazon.com under The Sensitives by D.A. Riles. Thank you for having joined me.